Welcome to the Didi Lital Show. Advice, thoughts, and stories from a married couple on cybersecurity, technology, and life in general. Now here are your hosts, Didi and Lital.
Hello and welcome to the Didi and Lital Show. It's another week. What's up? And spring has sprung. Nice.
Spring has sprung.
Finally, I don't need to fight with you over the treadmill.
Yes. Well, I've been running outside as well.
A little bit.
Yes.
I'm like not going back.
I did for practice more than 10K in less than an hour without race speed.
Cool.
Right. My current 5K prediction is just under 25.
Mine as well.
Nice.
I dropped from 25. It's like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if I can actually do it, but that's I'm addicted to my Garmin. I've been kind of trying to get to an above 90 sleep score on my Garmin, which has been non-possible until this week when you went away. And that was the first time that I got to a 90 score.
Yes.
You get it every night, but I don't know. Like, I never get more than 81. That was like my best score, best sleep score.
Shows.
But I'm really, really into, maybe we'll do an episode about sleep and like the new protocol I'm following.
Cool.
I'm learning a lot about that. I'm improving my sleep, but you do everything possible to ruin it for me.
Yes.
You don't like that I follow sleep improvement protocol.
I have nothing that I care or do not care about your...
you care about ruining it.
I don't care about ruining it.
I think I cannot wait for one of the kids to go to college and we'll have different beds.
Okay.
We'll do the Woody Allen thing.
We'll do the Woody Allen thing. I will tell you that it doesn't matter because it's not anything personal against you. It's just that you go to sleep at 9:30 and I go to sleep at midnight.
Yeah. And you ruin my sleep because it's not just, if you go to bed at midnight, that's cool. But since 9:30, you're like, come out of the room, take stuff, move stuff. You do so much stuff and then you turn on the light. Or you don't turn on the light, you turn off your flashlight in your cell phone as if it's like, and then you kind of like wave it around and like put it in my face. You ruin my sleep.
Why did I come home last night at 9:30? Was it because I chose to, or was it because I took Omri to hockey?
You took Omri to hockey,
and I needed to feed him afterwards. Am I supposed to do that in the dark?
You feed him in our bedroom?
No, but the bedroom is right next to the kitchen. I told you that was a bad idea.
Well, that's the problem with the builder. As I said, the minute one of the kids get out to college, I'm going to sleep in one of their rooms.
Okay.
That's it.
Awesome. Why was I away that week?
Oh, so Didi this week decided to be Lital, and he went to a marketing conference, which is like...
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, marketing is nice. So
no, marketing is stupid, but the people going to the marketing conferences are much... First...
You're going to say better looking.
Oh, that's definitely... that's like
than people in technology conferences.
That's like... First...
So Didi went to Gartner, how they call it? Marketing Summit?
No, Growth and Innovation.
Oh, it's Growth and Innovation. So it's not marketing.
It's marketing, PMM, sales motions.
Okay.
It's basically GTM. It's the whole GTM group.
Okay.
And first, it's not just a sausage fest. Like tech conferences are a sausage fest.
What do you mean by sausage fest? Explain to me that the ignorant.
So when you have a conference, when the penis to vulva ratio is 9:1, that's called a sausage fest.
Got it. So that's probably the opposite.
No,
there are way more women in GTM.
There's a lot more women in GTM. It was about 50-50. It was like a medical conference. So it was a diverse, truly, actually, when we talk about diversity, this was really a diverse conference from everybody and anybody, and truly not like, the very uniform engineering conferences. Mm-hmm. Engineering conferences are basically very, 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 very uniform. This one was, or the security ones are definitely very uniform. It's basically 3 types of populations, and that's everybody. And this one was very diverse. You heard multiple voices from every walk of life. This was very interesting. So the marketing industry, actually the GTM industry, has a lot more color to it. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, true. Great people, interesting people in product marketing,
Yep.
sales leadership.
Yep. It was also strategic, strategic alliances people, partnership people,
Biz dev.
a lot of, or even strategy groups like CTO groups, the people that basically.
That's why they sent you to that.
No, the reason.
Why did Cisco send you to that conference?
So Shayla asked who wants to go to this conference, and this was a Cisco day for me, which is why I'm on vacation today. And nobody wanted to go, and I said I'll go because I looked at the agenda, and a lot of the content was with relations to the transformation in the industry that has happened thanks to or not thanks to or because of Gen AI. And I know how it impacts engineering, but I really wanted to know how it impacts the industry as a whole. How will it would change the way we sell products, how we should build products. We've pivoted very aggressively in Cisco security towards Gen AI and Gen AI security. And I wanted to hear what everybody else is seeing. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you what was bad in the conference, and then I'll tell you all the stuff that I really like, because I really like that conference. That's why we're talking about it.
Okay. So you want to start with the bad stuff.
So the bad was basically a one-liner.
What is it?
They failed to create a marketing environment, a networking environment.
Seriously?
Yeah.
How come?
I don't know.
Was it in a Gaylord? It's
yes,
always in a Gaylord.
It's always in a Gaylord.
But the Gaylords do have a good kind of...
the Gaylords do have a good kind
atmosphere for that.
But there wasn't like... Usually there's like 2-3 core networking events. Even the event, the named networking event was not orchestrated correctly. Because usually the networking event is really well orchestrated to create hubs of communication, and people start talking to each other.
Yeah, they usually have like a few spots to take your drinks, a few places to grab some food.
And my guess is because it had no sponsorships.
It had no sponsorships.
And that's my guess of why this didn't happen. And also they didn't have like even afternoon desserts. Like
they had no sponsorships? Seriously?
They had no sponsorships for this conference. So and there was no expo. There was not...
Like Salesforce and other companies don't sponsor those kind of things?
Exactly. That was my biggest...
Oh, that tells you about the MarTech, product tech industry.
Yep.
Not sponsoring it.
Yeah. This was a very interesting one. So there was no.
Like think about this, the Gartner Security Summit. How many sponsors you have?
The Gartner IAM had us.
IAM and the
Okta,
one in...
at Microsoft.
Yeah.
So this was very interesting.
I mean, it's interesting because it's true. You don't have those like well-funded big companies in this space anymore. I mean, other than, I guess, Salesforce, HubSpot, maybe. And
it's not that. It's this was weird.
Those events are super expensive. Like the amount of money that Gartner wants us to pay a sponsorship for the upcoming Security Summit and IAM, they raised the sponsorship from one year to another with $50,000.
Okay.
It's unreal. So it's really expensive. That's the delta between last year and this year. It's nuts. So very expensive. So I guess a lot of companies decided not to sponsor.
That's my guess. Anyways, no sponsorship.
So you're saying without sponsorship, it's pretty dull?
It's pretty dull. And there was no networking. So that was the downside. The content was really good. Usually I expect Gartner to have mainly BS and hand wave and fluff, and not talk about specific use cases, not talk about specific problems, not talk about anything specifically.
Like have a little bit of acronyms and like big fluffy trends and all the buzzwords.
Yes.
That's the typical kind of analyst talk. That's what you expected?
Yeah.
And what was it?
So I'll start with the two keynotes that I really liked. The first keynote was the kickoff keynote. And the guy that was talking about this first took responsibility. He was talking about the ages in technology. He says that we are at a shift of an age. That if the previous age, the age of the mobile and the accessible data. So he says that
the cloud.
First, there was like the turn into IT. Then
mainframe.
The mainframe world. Then there was
the internet.
The client. No, first there was the client server world.
Okay.
That was the 80s. So between the 60s and the 80s, there was the mainframe.
Right.
The data industry, the one that I inherited at the tail end of the COBOL
like
kicks.
Those are your favorite talks, the history and and shifts in
when they moved in the 80s to the 2000s into client server, PCs, accessible technology, and the big shift. And he took responsibility. He says, look, we've learned when we did that two shifts, we thought that the previous age is dead and the new age is.
No, but there is a long tail of hybrid and keeping
as you know by your best friend Elon, Social Security still runs on mainframe and will not shift. And a lot of people that were talking about the Amex and some of the others, nobody's going to get off the mainframe. This is more of a space of addition, not subtraction.
Okay.
And then there was the internet age, which is first web. Then there was
web network,
mobile, and now the Gen AI world changes how you interact, and it brings in. You need to think of this as how many more things it brings in. And
so you're saying no subtraction. It's more of an addition. That's what he says.
Yeah.
But is it more because? There is subtraction for sure in some areas, maybe not in infrastructure.
I don't think that there's subtraction at all. I think this is where they call it the age of intelligence. And I agree with this because this is when I lived through the shift between the late 90s to the 2000s, Microsoft with the VB6, and you remember in Israel there was this software called Magic, that basically allowed for the proliferation of applications. It was like a boom of applications.
Right.
And it brought more applications to more people. Right now, if you think of a doctor in radiology, the current generation will fight it tooth and nail because it will subtract their value. But right now, if you're a doctor, I'm thinking that in the next 5 years, if you're a doctor and you're not using AI to diagnose, you should be sued for malpractice.
Yeah, it's going to come everywhere. It's going to be for a lawyer if you're not using it to check the contract for, issues in it. If in any area,
yes,
you should be expected and you should be using it to better your job.
Exactly. And this was the second keynote, which was fascinating on its own because it was talking about 3 problems in the shift of the intelligence space. One is the thing we need to basically smack our kids and take their phones as soon as they come home, because apparently there's enough research that has been done. Not that I really believe researchers, as you know, but I as Felger says, I love to use fake data and advanced analytics when it serves my purpose. So the research has shown that the more you're ADD, the more you do the context switching, very few people can stay creative when they context switch.
Right. You need to go for a long time. You need to focus.
You need to be bored to be creative.
Right.
The fact that
you need to have less dopamine in your brain.
Exactly. You need to be bored to be creative. And the fact that our kids are reluctant to be bored is a problem. They need to learn to be bored. The second thing that the lovely lady said is what they called AI snobism. what does it mean? There's a big push in your marketing space to say that they don't want AI generated content, because she was showing the impact of, that's when I was sending you stuff like Typeface and Adobe and some of the software, because she was showing the impact of how some of the bigger companies, especially the trailblazers, have been able to build very interesting content that's very customized while keeping the brand voice, which is things that if it wasn't COVID and I couldn't hear you talking with your people all the time, I wouldn't understand what it means. But understanding the keeping of the brand voice, and they were showing a lot of the marketing capabilities of a lot of the trailblazers, and AI does bring in a massive leap in the ability to generate customized content that's very specific for the need. So, for example, if I'm Ford in New Hampshire, my pictures of the cars are in the snow, and if I'm in Miami, I'm on the beach.
Yeah, you see already like tons of the same ads for cars, showing you, the area, the surrounding that is relevant for your weather, and you're in an urban surrounding versus so you can play a lot with that,
and with the demographics, and with a lot of things, because everybody jokes.
So everybody talked in the past for a long time. People talked about micro targeting and marketing that fits the individual. AI actually makes it possible, because before that it meant you need an army of web designers and graphic designers and videographers and all kinds of things. The amount of variations you can do is awesome. It's just impossible to do if you don't have AI. So Gen AI is really good for creating tons of permutations.
On the other hand, it also enhances...
And for testing.
Yes, but it also enhances... It makes, as Joe put in random yesterday, it makes an idiot much more loud, because you can see that the bad stuff gets amplified. So, and the last thing she was talking about was about the snobism in this, which was that there's a lot of companies that say, well, if you put a marketing content that's clearly Gen AI generated, it's like wearing a fake Louis Vuitton. And this is where I actually completely disagree with this trend in the space.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why I completely disagree with this trend in this space, because let's look at cars. Driving a Ferrari. Let's be blunt. A Ferrari, and more likely the cars that are hand manufactured, like Ferraris and Aston Martins and those things, they're pieces of crap. They sit in the garage half the time. Almost everybody that owns one of those
know that you need to pay.
You need to own another car that was manufactured.
That actually will be driving.
Exactly.
You need to look outside when you take in, and the Audi is not hand manufactured. Yeah. But even that is
exactly.
It's what's the weather outside? Can I drive? How many potholes we have in the area?
Exactly. And the more
otherwise you need to replace the wheels every other week.
As we know somebody that owns an Aston Martin, he also owns an Infinity, because he needs to be able to drive.
So you're saying handcrafted stuff is not necessarily as good?
It could be
mass manufacturing.
It could be related to prestige, but from my perspective, it should be treated exactly like that. Because I'll give you another example of snobism that came out. So I dated a lovely lady that was one of the pioneers of using freehand in art creation. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of criticism of her work, because they said that's not real art. She's not drawing by hand. But right now,
digital art is whatever everybody is using.
Everybody's now using digital art.
Right.
My guess is that this is kind of the same.
I think it really shows the trend we're going to see in everywhere, in every area of, yes, luxury, will be handcrafted, hand created, the Louis Vuitton, the Aston Martin. Like, think about robotics enabled by AI. So your sweet greens or whatever Chipotle doesn't need to be created by human beings. You have now, all those restaurants are going to go through very soon. I heard the podcast with a former leader in Uber that he creates now this kind of automation for fast food. And it will be great because they can simplify it. I mean, might be a problem for employment and so, but in general, Gen AI brings those conversations that we can also talk about. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, fast food will be completely automated. You already digitally order your salad in sweet greens. It will be chopped and made and created by a robot, and there is no reason you need a human being to do it.
Can they flip burgers?
The robot can flip burgers, I'm sure. The question is it cheaper to keep on, to change the whole back end of the restaurant to be this big robot versus keeping the $18 per hour teenage to flip it? That's the question. I mean, at the end of the day, if you think about it, it's the size of the real estate that they have and, the cost of completely redoing the stores to be. So it's a question when, the robotics will be as cheap as the teenage flipping the burger. But the point is, you're still going to have restaurants with the chef that creates your food and brings it to your table and, this high end. So, yes, that would be the luxury. And AI will create, the rest. So that's the equivalent. Yeah. So there's going to be, that will be the definition. It's already like that anywhere.
Yep.
But to your point about marketing and content creation, but using Gen AI versus, I think there are levels of it, and we can talk about it in general. It's a conversation we had, I think, also about code creation using AI, and so
we'll discuss this in the next one.
But I just want to say, like everything, it depends.
Yep.
If you just give a generic prompt to your chat GPT and you just copy paste it and you keep the weird long dash that ChatGPT always adds and, the weirdish text, it's going to be garbage because that's what it is. But you can really put some thoughtfulness, you can feed with your own personal ideas and use AI the way you just used when you sent an email this week to a teacher.
Yes.
To make yourself better, to, answer what the customer voice the voice the customers will be looking. So I would say, like everything, don't be a snob. It's so helpful and it gives so many layers of improvement to your work. But it's also, if you just outsource it and do mass work with it, it will be like cheap things you buy in, what is the Chinese really, really cheap clothing. I'm forgetting how it's called. There is like a website with cheap.
You're talking about Alibaba?
Yeah, like that. Temu. I don't know. There are all those kinds of places when you can buy clothes for $1.50, like something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Shein. That's
I'll tell you something. This is where we need to think about some of this stuff, because if you look at AI generated content, and we'll talk at this more about when we talk about the interview process. I think a lot of this is very much like what you put in is what you get out.
Yeah, like everything in life. Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. And I think this is the main thing we need to keep in mind, is that the world is evolving and you need to think about it very much like when coding languages went from C to Java and Delphi and VB6 and all that stuff. and with all the smart IDEs that enable people to do stuff, we need to think of this as the next step. And yes, the generations that are following us will not have Oleg's and mine or Dennis's hardware understanding of how exactly the bits go on the bucket, but some people need to have that.
I mean, they need to have it because somebody will need to build the GPUs and
but it's a limited number of people.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's addition. It opens up spaces to people that were limited before. Now, so this is talk number 2 that I really liked.
Yeah.
The other one that I really, really liked was very case-specific topics. So one topic that I really liked that had nothing to do with AI was discussing of personas and ICPs.
Okay.
And the reason I love
ICP, for those who don't know, ideal customer profile.
Exactly.
Something really important for us in marketing and GTM of understanding what type of companies we're after, what size, where they based off, so we can kind of slice and dice the messaging and what we give them.
So one of the things that was really interesting is that the person that was giving the talk, and it was the last talk of the conference, and I stayed basically in rant of the Uber towards the flight. The thing that I really liked about the guy that I was talking about is that we need to think of the personas as shifting. The personas need to be customized to the roles that they do and not their org chart. Right now, everybody looks at the owner of identity, the SOC analyst. Those are not, these are made up roles and bullshit ideas. And I've been claiming this now for years. The thing I liked about this conversation, he says, no, let's talk about the task that the person does. Mm-hmm. And he started by giving the example of insurance companies. And you can have a lot of roles and names, but somebody needs to process the claim.
Okay.
Somebody needs to pick up the phone and answer the stuff. Somebody needs to take the picture. Somebody needs to fix the car. There's all the stuff that needs to happen, and there's a million of these tasks. You need to think of the personas as the people doing the tasks, not the people based on the roles.
Yeah. Coming from marketing,
Yes.
I would say the reason for us looking at the roles is because the way our kind of advertising targeting works, and mostly all of it is due to this wonderful platform called LinkedIn that we all use to sub-segment people in B2B advertising. So we basically want to say it's hard to target people by roles because we don't know by what actually they do in the day-to-day. It's not description. It's not described in, sometimes they say something about it in LinkedIn. But basically what you have that is easy to kind of grab a list and say, let's target to all those people that have SOC and engineer in the title and give them this ad.
I understand.
I understand what he's saying, but the question is, how can we do that?
So this is why I took this from my part of the engineering world, because it's really nice what you guys need to solve in the marketing department.
Yeah.
But for me, it resonates really well for engineering and how to build a product, because I can sell a product much better.
If you think about what's the day-to-day job of the guy.
Exactly.
Doing,
what they're solving, the problem that they have. Because then I always say that it's easier to sell aspirin than to sell vitamins. Vitamins are good for you. They're important, blah, 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 blah.
But you don't have a real problem.
But if you have a headache...
Unless you know you're vitamin D deficient, so
blah,
you
blah,
go
blah,
and,
whatever.
Yeah.
But if you have...
a headache, you take Tylenol.
You'll take Tylenol, you'll take Advil. Selling Advil is much better business.
Because you have a problem to solve.
Because you have a problem to solve.
So look at the persona that has a problem in the day-to-day job.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And you and I were talking about when will identity be part of security and stuff like that. This is the problem, that the org charts continue to change. The role name continue to change, especially in an industry that keeps evolving. Right now, one of the things that I think is very critical is dealing with real problems. Like one of the things that I'm arguing with a lot of our product management is, what is this problem trying to solve? Is this going to give us money? Are we building a feature because you need a backlog to fill with crap? Or are we solving a problem that actually whether we can sell that solves a customer problem? Especially when now our product became a lot bigger. I'm saying let's look at the problems that the customers have. Like, are they trying to move from MFA to passwordless? How do we help them do this? Are they trying to clean up all the people that have no MFA? Are they trying to secure policies? Are they trying to investigate the people with the highest risk? Are they trying to detect these 3 detections? How did they investigate the detection? Let's look at the problem that they're trying to solve. So this resonated really, really well with me. Okay. That everything needs to start. And it resonates also with the customers when you describe a process and somebody says, oh, yes, I need that.
I think sales are going to love it because that's the hardest thing. If you come to sales and tell them, go talk about us being a platform solving, identity, blah, 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 blah. It's, maybe you need a headline on the website, but it's much easier for them to say, hey, I'm calling you because, I have a similar customer that told me that when they're going through recertifying themselves to be PCI DSS, this is coming up the end of the month. Companies that process credit cards need to move to the new regulation, the PCI 4. And I found out that a lot of them realize that they have those gaps. And if you're like them, I think you need to solve X and Y. What is your timeline for that? Is that something you're looking? So being very specific, thinking about tasks they have, timelines, things that if you are processing credit cards, you have a to-do to be compliant by end of month or whenever your next audit coming in the next year around that. That's kind of like zooming into a problem, a task that people have, a deadline that people have, for sure. For sales conversations brings the why now, why talk to you, sense of urgency, sense of relevance.
And same with engineering on what to build, because it makes the problem.
Why build X versus Y? You always have, how do you prioritize?
How do you build? Because if I know the problem that we're trying to solve versus, hey, let's add blah, blah, blah widget in the UI, that's not helpful. Let's talk about the customer's process, have a workflow, and then solve for that.
Okay, cool.
So that was really insightful and really helpful. The other one is, of course, they had to talk about the hype cycle. And are we at the peak? Are we at the trough of disillusionment? Are we going into productivity? And as the guy was
specifically for AI or something else?
For Gen AI. And I found this to be very fascinating because I think the hype cycle is gonna have to rethink itself, because what's happening with the Gen AI is very industry specific and problem specific. Because right now everybody has FOMO. Everybody wants to make sure that they have Gen AI. Everybody's thinking about some of those things. One of the things that was really fascinating about that hype cycle is that initially everybody thought that what they need to do is to think of freeing up time. Freeing up time is bullshit. People never free up time. It's not a seller point. It's never a successful business. That's why I like the outcome-based conversations. Mm-hmm. Because once you free up people's time and you don't reassign them new tasks or new things to do, more likely than not, they're gonna fill it up with HR TPS reports. They're gonna fill it out with useless tasks. Coffee time,
I mean, it has to be, instead of freeing up time, it's an outcome of, higher productivity, higher outcomes, which I think is happening in a lot of areas. Like,
I don't think productivity is a goal. Like
I don't know what productivity can mean. A lot of things, more outcomes.
Yes, but so this is something that I got a survey to discuss. If Copilot is helping me produce higher quality code, I said no, but it helps me generate
more code,
a lot more quantity.
Okay.
So I have a much better quantity with slightly lower quality, which is interesting because what I think, it's not a bad thing to think of quantity over quality, because again, if we're going back to the car manufacturer, I prefer to be Toyota than to be Ferrari.
So I'll bring it to my area in marketing, and maybe we conclude with that.
No, I want one more topic.
Okay, you'll have one more topic after that. So definitely output is increased with AI. I'll give an example. We just made a decision internally to move from hosting one webinar a month to 4 webinars a month. And if you're in marketing, you understand there is the whole thing around it. There is like the promotion of the webinar, the emails goes out, social promotion. You need to create a landing page. You need to create some flows. And of course, the content around that. So with AI, we can easily, we're doing it right now. We're using AI to help us generate ideas. We are putting surveys out of what topics to cover, what's the interest of people. We generate faster slides for the webinars. Everything is so much more kind of like a well-oiled machine that without increasing the team size, we can still deal with 4xing our output. Still, there is manual work. We need the time to record it, rehearse it, few additional meetings. Like this cannot be removed, but the whole effort is way lower than what it would take us, let's say, prior to Gen AI, when we had to create from scratch the content, write every email, and not just have AI propose to us a starting point and us being able to prompt and improve it. At the end of the day, for marketeers, it means you create more content, more people engage with it. You get, potentially more leads, more people come. If you can do more content by industry. So moving from, us talking on a specific industry once in every few months, now we can have a monthly industry with a specific content to them. So I think this is really important to think about. Like, it enables you to have a higher throughput.
I agree. Yep. I agree, especially I was playing on the flight back. This is something maybe I need to pitch to Dave. One of the amazing things, I was playing with Notebook LM and a few other of these technologies. It listens to a podcast. It gives you a really cool transcript. It says, you want me to create a website and a couple of images and a couple of taglines? It basically can automate a website, basically the whole kind of creation around it. It was like fascinating how much it can create in terms of the everything around it. So I found it to be really cool that basically you can right now, if you create content like we're creating, all the meta product can just yes, exactly, draft a social post.
Yeah, I have on my screen here the app that I use, Descript, which is not a sponsor of the show, but maybe should be. You can from the transcript of the podcast, AI will draft a social post, will draft a YouTube description, will draft a blog post, and they actually come out pretty good. I mean, you got to take a look at them, but
it's good.
Yeah. So that's kind of where my mind was at. There's Notebook LM. There's a million of the Webflow that you guys are using
for website. Yeah.
So all the stuff is like ready there.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to talk about is they were talking about a specific use case about how Microsoft has decided to improve the RFP process. And if any company that deals with RFP and security questionnaires is not doing this right now, I need to talk to our friend Sravish again on how they do some of the stuff. Because right now, they basically use AI to generate the initial draft of any RFP.
Sure.
But it's amazing because what it does, it takes a look at all your previous answers of all the previous RFPs.
Sure.
Indexes all of them.
Look at your win rate, where you lost,
where you
to whom you lost.
But also looks at your GitHub contributions, because and your release cycles, basically your release notes. Think of the products that they build. There's like 1 million release notes. We have a simple one release note. Think of
so they can pick up from the release note specific features and stuff to match it to the request of the RFP.
Exactly. And they look.
So instead of the guy writing it, kind of like asking engineering, how do I solve this problem? It automatically gives, oh, that's awesome.
Yes. And then it looks at also the customer's posts. People that work for the customer, what they're posting as their problems, as their solutions. It builds a voice to focus on the answer to the customer and not a generic, basically, and not a hodgepodge. It also gives it a uniform voice, because one of the things that happens a lot of times when you answer an RFP, you go to engineering to answer this, you go to ops to answer this, you go to sales to answer this.
Right, and somebody kind of put it in.
Exactly.
The poorest E that has to.
Yeah, exactly. So you basically get a hodgepodge. Same goes for the security questionnaires, because right now, if it goes through your backlog, it can actually answer a lot of the stuff that, you answered your SOC 2 3 years ago, actually a year ago. But if you go through a lot of more than just the compliance documents, but also go towards the release notes, the operation notes, status page, all that stuff, it builds an outcome that can basically tell you, okay, do you do this and you do this better? So all the questionnaires, all the documents that are going back and forth.
So they built an agent in Copilot to do it?
No, they built a whole system, a dedicated system that runs on top of Copilot, and they spin up an instance because they're Microsoft and they can do things.
Why aren't they selling it as an agent?
They probably will.
I mean, sounds like a product.
They probably will. But right now they're taking advantage of the fact that they can answer an RFP.
And win over the competition.
Competition because...
I mean, let's be honest. They win because of the cost.
Look, but they win because of the cost, but think of the fact that if you get a draft that looks like it was built by a whole set of pros and you get it in less than 24 hours and everybody else gives you back a hodgepodge that looks like shit, it's hard to justify.
It's actually one of those areas that it should be. AI is so good in this, and like human beings hate this thing. Like nobody likes replying to RFPs and security questionnaires. So automation here, sweet.
Yes. So, and I want to add one last line because we're running out of time.
Yes.
They were talking about what makes people better than AI, and when they said that, I laughed about it. They were talking about generating quality, and I laughed about it because most people generate shit. They were talking about predictive capabilities, predictive analytics.
Human beings are not so good at predictive.
Humans are terrible at predictions.
Yeah.
And people...
And we don't understand, big numbers.
Exactly. And the last thing was attention to details. Most people...
don't have attention. So you're saying they're wrong.
They're very wrong. The only person that they describe that can do this is like a small set of people that are very unique in their ability to do this. It's like the percentage of people that are multitaskers. Like 3% of the population is good for this.
Okay.
And the rest, basically, AI will replace you. With that, I think we're done.
I hope people enjoyed this episode and learned something. And if you go to an interesting conference and want to tell us about it, please share. The Didi Lital Show is a weekly podcast. Please share with your friends, rate and review us. 5 is preferred so that more people can see us using the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.